Adam, there's another investigation involving Morant, and can you update us on where you are on the timeline, when you expect it to end? And since there seems to be not a lot of precedent for this situation, how do you assess what kind of punishment to deliver, if indeed there is a punishment here?
So in assessing what discipline is appropriate, if that's the case, we look at both the history of prior acts, but then we look at the individual player's history as well. And so and the seriousness, of course, of the conduct. So those are all things that get factored. It's not an exact science. It comes down to judgment at the end of the day on the part of me and my colleagues in the league office. In terms of the timing, we've uncovered a fair amount of additional information. I think since I was still asked about the situation, I would say we probably could have brought it to a head now, but we made the decision, and I believe the Players Association agrees with us, that it would be unfair to these players and these teams in the middle of the series to announce the results of that investigation. And given that we're, of course, in the off season, he has now been suspended by the Memphis Grizzlies indefinitely, and so nothing would have changed anyway in the next few weeks. It seemed better to park that at the moment, at least any public announcement. And my sense now is that shortly after the conclusion of the finals, we will announce the outcome of that investigation.
Back to Ja for a second. When you look at the totality of everything that's transpired, the investigations, the gun incidents, when you look back at that first initial suspension, is there a thought that you might have taken it too light on him from that standpoint, given everything that's happened? Could you have sent a stronger message to maybe be a deterrent to where you are now?
I've thought about that, and Joe Dumars, who was here, was in the room with me when we met with Ja, and he's known Ja longer than I have. It's, for me at the time, an 8-game suspension seemed very serious, and the conversation we had, and Tamika Tremalio from the Players Association was there as well, felt heartfelt and serious, but I think he understood that it wasn't about his words, it was going to be about his future conduct. So I guess in hindsight, I don't know, if it had been a 12-game suspension instead of an 8-game suspension, would that have mattered? I don't know. I know that it seemed, at least, based on precedent, and there is, he's represented, and we want to be fair in terms of the league, and it seemed appropriate at the time. That's all I can say. I mean, maybe by definition, to the extent, we've all seen the video that it appears he's done it again. I guess you could say maybe not, but I don't think we yet know what it will take to change his behavior. Same thing I said at the time. He seems to be, a fine young man. I mean, I in terms of my dealings with him, I think he's clearly made some mistakes, but he's young, and I'm hoping now, once we conclude at the end of our process what the appropriate discipline is, that it's not just about the discipline. It's about now what we, the Players Association, his team, and he and the people around him are going to do to create better circumstances going forward. I think that's ultimately what's most important here.